don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that anytime we upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you.
First and foremost, offering all honors, praises, respect, acknowledgement, and thanks unto the great King of the universe, to the God of our fathers, to the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov, thanking him for all things and thanking him for everything. I bid you in the tongue of our forefathers, Shalom. Please be seated. Thanking the Most High God for life, thanking him for strength, for food, clothing, and shelter. Thanking the Most High God because he is good and his mercy endures forever. Praying that everyone is well. Praying that the Most High God in these turbulent times, praying that the Most High God is with you. Praying that the Most High God is showing you that he's with you. When things like this happen, we as a people tend to become a bit concerned. We as a people tend to look at the events of the day and wonder exactly what's going on. And again, we constantly talk about it. These are the days and these are the times that it's important to get closer to God. And these are the days and these are the times that it's important for us to understand exactly what God is doing and why he's doing it. Because when you don't, and when we lose focus on exactly what's happening and we fail to put everything in perspective, then that's when situations like what happened this past week get us rattled. And they shouldn't get us rattled for a variety of reasons. First reason being that the Most High God is judge and king over all the earth and hasn't relinquished his power or his autonomy to anyone or to anybody. But the events that happened this week should show us a few things. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue in the book of Jeremiah chapters 24 and 25. But before we get to that point, before we get to those scriptures, because those scriptures are actually going to speak to the Most High God and how he dealt with us and the reasons that we're here in the first place. Those are going to speak to that. But as that portion is speaking to that, I want to speak to us being here now and what we can do to safeguard and protect ourselves while we're here. And just putting everything into perspective about why we're here, now we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah to talk about exactly why we're here. Because when we look out and we wonder, how could such tragedy and travesty and all of these things happen to us? What could we possibly have done for us to deserve all of this? We're going to read about it right now.
Teach us. The book of Yirmiyahu, known as Jeremiah, 24th chapter. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahweh showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs set before the temple of Yah. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Yehudah, and the princes of Yehudah, with the craftsmen and the smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon.
So, just to put everything, and I know we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, and I want us to understand. So, the way the book of the prophet was put together, it's not put together in chronological order. So what you're actually going to see is when we get into 25, chapter 25 actually took place before chapter 24. But this is the way that it was put together, and this is the time where, just so we understand everything that's happening, we were just fighting with the Assyrians. At this point, when Nebuchadnezzar came, the Assyrians were basically done, but we still had, I'm good. The Assyrians were basically done, but we still had the kingdom of Egypt, that was still a threat at the time, which we were trying to keep the kingdom of Egypt. We were trying to keep Egypt with us as we always ran to Egypt for help. This is what we were continuing to do. Remember that. We always ran to Egypt for help, and God always said, don't run to Egypt for help. When we get into 25, just remember that. So this is the point where Babylon came in. The king of Egypt had set up Jehoiakim. Babylon came in. After Jehoiakim died and Jehoiakim put up his son, Babylon came in, took him, and the king of Babylon set up Nebuchadnezzar to be king. The king of Babylon set up Zedekiah to be king. And this is the first wave of the captivity of Judah, which happened probably around 597 or so BCE. Come on.
Verse 2. One basket had very good figs, like the figs that are the first ripe, and the other baskets had very bad figs, which could not be eaten, they were so bad. Then said Yahweh unto me, What do you see, Yirmiyahu? And I said, Figs, the good figs, the very good figs, and the bad, the very bad, that cannot be eaten, they are so bad.
So as the Most High God typically does, he gives the prophet some sort of a sign or some sort of anomaly for them to look at. And so he showed them two sets of figs. One fig was nice. One set of figs was nice, pretty. The other set of figs was just bad and rotten. Come on.
And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Thus saith Yahweh Elohei Yisrael, like these good figs, so will I regard the captives of Yehudah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for good. And I will set my eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them back to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. I will give them a heart to know me, that I am Yahweh, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. For they shall return unto me with their whole heart. And as the bad figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so bad, surely thus saith Yahweh, so will I make Zedekiah king of Yehudah and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem that remains in this land, and them that dwell in the land of Egypt.
So now, just think about what's happening here. So the Most High God is using this as a sign, and he's saying the good figs, think about it. At this point, all Israel is going to captivity. God has already established that. But what he said is the good figs that can be eaten, those are the figs that are represented by the children of Israel, the Judites at that point, that's actually being carried away into captivity to Babylon. Those are the good ones. Because what's going to happen is they're going to go, they're going to serve their captivity in Babylon, and then I'm going to give them a heart to know, and they're going to come back. But the bad figs are going to be the ones that's going to be staying in the land for the next 11 years under Zedekiah. Those are the bad ones.
Wow.
And just think about that for a minute. You would think that the people who actually get to stay in the land,
wow,
those were the ones that were good. Right. And I'm telling you, you can't figure God out.
That's right.
You can't figure God out. That's because right. What happened is they thought that because they were the ones that were saved, they thought that those were the ones that were able to stay in the land, so they were okay. They weren't as bad. That's not the way God looked at it.
Oh.
God said the ones that stayed in the land were the ones that were the worst.
The worst.
And look what he said at the end of 9. At 8, he said, so will I make Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem that remain in this land, and them that went down into Egypt already. So the ones that went down into Egypt for safety, for the safety of Egypt, God already deemed them to be just as bad as the ones that have stayed in the land, right, equivalent to those bad figs that can't be eaten, the right, bad figs that can't be saved, the bad figs whom the Most High God is going to show indignation against, because those were the bad ones. because we weren't supposed to go down into Egypt. And all through the book of Isaiah, the Most High God said that don't lean on Egypt because Egypt is a broken reed. What happened is we always leaned on Egypt. Then, just like now.
Yes, sir.
And look at how the two coincide. Just like we leaned on Egypt then, when it was falling apart, is the same as us leaning on Egypt, America, Egypt right now. That's falling apart. And they're falling apart. They can't get their own selves together. And yet, if they can't fix what they have to fix with their own selves, how do you expect that they're going to fix something with you? Don't lean on Egypt. You know, I want to let you know the difference between how we think as godly people, because godliness is in us, and how American oppressors think. I want to show you the difference. Even with this, and again, for those who think he just talk politics, hear me. I'm not talking politics, I'm talking reality. I want you to understand what's happening. Please understand what's happening. And then you take that and compare that to Torah. Because what they did is he incited treason and sedition. That's what he did. Am I right or wrong? He incited treason and sedition, caused 5 people to die, including a police officer. And the response from the president who's supposed to be taking over, his response was, you know what? I don't think we're going to prosecute him. We just want him to go away.
Really?
How do you get to go away after you incited a riot and treason and caused people to die? It still shows you, even in the state that they're trying to be the most genuine, they're still flawed because they don't have God. They are oppressors and oppressive, and that's who God sent us in the midst of, oppressive people to oppress. Don't expect justice. Don't expect peace. The only peace and justice that you're going to get is by you figuring out a way to get past your love for the captor, learn to love your brother, and let us all start to work together. That's when peace is going to come. Because at least at that point, what you have is you have some people that you know will be able to stand with you together when the oppressors finish dealing with what they're dealing with and when they come after you.
That's right.
Because that's all that's going to happen. People are worked up. People are upset. Think about it. If you think about this just a year ago, just short of a year ago, in January of 2020, that's when they had, we don't talk about no more. That's when they had the march at the Lincoln Memorial with the students and the Native American, where they were beefing at guess where? The Lincoln Memorial. The place that's supposed to be a place of peace for the country, where you were able to free everyone else, and that's where they were beefing. Not too long later, once again, in Washington, this is what you have. Come on.
9. I would even make them a horror among all the kingdoms of the earth for evil, a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse.
For the
in
people
all places whither I shall drive
For
them.
the people who stayed in the land. You can't figure God out. Can't figure God out. Come on.
10. And I will send the sword, famine, and the pestilence among them till they be consumed from off the land that I give them and to their fathers.
So now, I want us to remember what actually happened. So, when the king of Babylon came in, they took the first wave of deportees, like I said, around 597 BCE, before the Common Era. They took them and they went down to Babylon, and they were whatever happened in Babylon. When you read about the history of Nebuchadnezzar, you don't really read that he was the vicious type that killed and maimed and murdered the people who he already had under subjugation. What happened was, at that point, it was about money and taxes and all of those different things. So those people who went down in the first wave, you see the people who they took were the what's the word I'm looking for? The craftsmen. The craftsmen and all of those different things. So the nobility, so they took them down there to work. But for that next 11 years under Zedekiah, that's when all of this, the stuff that you read about in Deuteronomy 28, the vicious acts of them eating their children and so on and so forth, that's what happened in those last 11 years under Zedekiah, after the king of Babylon came and besieged the city again for the last 3 years until they were able to breach the walls. So the people who stayed historically got the worst, because that's when the fury of the Most High God was at its highest. And that's exactly what you're seeing here, which Jeremiah is prophesying, which is going to come to pass within the next 7 years or so. Come on.
Chapter 25. The word that came to Yirmiyahu concerning all the people of Yehuda in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Yehuda. That was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
So now, just to qualify my statement, you see this prophecy, or this speaking, this portion took place in the 4th year when Jehoiakim was still king, versus 24, which took place after Jehoiakim had already died and his son had taken over, and Nebuchadnezzar had already come in and taken that first wave. Come on.
2. Which Yirmiyahu the prophet spoke unto all the people of Yehuda and to the inhabitants of Yisrael, saying,
Listen to what he's saying. Come on.
From the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Yehuda, even unto this day, these 23 years the word of Yahweh hath come unto me.
So I want to, because I know different books are going to read different ways. So I want us to understand exactly what it's saying. So Jeremiah started prophesying from the 13th year of Josiah. And right now what you're reading is giving the impression that this is the 23rd year, meaning 10 years later. This is not. This is actually, that 23 years that they're talking about is actually 23 years later. So when you read it in the Hebrew, you see that it's actually saying for the past 23 years, I have been talking. Come on.
And I have spoken unto you, speaking betimes and often.
Come on.
But ye have not hearkened.
Come on.
And Yahweh hath sent unto you his servants the prophets.
Come on.
Sending them betimes and often. But ye have not hearkened nor inclined your ears, saying.
So remember, Jeremiah wasn't the only one prophesying at that time, because Ezekiel was also prophesying around the same time. And some of the other minor prophets were also prophesying around that same time. Come on.
Return ye now every one from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yahweh hath given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever. And go not after other gods to serve them, and to worship them, and provoke me not with the works of your hands, and I will do you no hurt. Yet,
come on.
Ye have not hearkened unto me, saith Yahweh, that ye might provoke me with your words.
So now, hold on right there. So now, listen to what Jeremiah is saying. Jeremiah, and because I want us to put this in perspective. Jeremiah is saying, for the past 23 years, I have been coming to you, telling you, God said this. God said, get your life together. God said, don't serve other gods. God said, dwell in this land in peace. For the last 23 years, I have been saying this to you on a consistent basis. So now, just projecting a little bit, think about you. Think about me. Think about us right now, and think about how the last 23 years of your life has been. Think about the fact that for the last 23 years that you've been keeping Sabbath, and the last 23 years that you've been keeping law, and for the last 23 years that you've been doing here, and the Most High God gave you teachings every week. The Most High God gave you teaching often in between times, and he had people to come up to teach and talk and yell and cry and do whatever it is that they could muster up to try to bring the message to God people, and yet we're still in the position that we're in right now. I just want us to put it in perspective and see the parallel. Because for the last 23 years, and that's exactly what Jeremiah is telling them. And it said for the last 23 years, but you have not hearkened to my words. Come on.
Saith Yahweh, that ye might provoke me with the works of your hands to your own hurt.
And that's what happened. You know, one of the things about the Most High God is that if you look at the characteristics that the Most High God show in the wilderness, because I think what happened in the wilderness throughout the book of Numbers is an excellent example of how we as a people acted and how God responded. Because I'm give you one example. They were in the wilderness and they just said, they complained and they beefed about water. That's all they asked for. They asked for water. They asked for food. They asked for quails. And when Moses went to God, God's response was, how long will these people despise me? But all they was doing was asking for quails and water. But it wasn't that you were asking for quails and water. It was how you acted and how you went about doing it. Because the Most High God was already taking care of you. He was giving you everything that you needed. We just weren't happy because it wasn't what we wanted. And that was the problem. And often, what so happens oftentimes is when we have the things that we need, and we're not happy because we don't have what we want. Typically what happens is that amounts to you taking what God gave you for granted, because God already gave you what you needed. He already gave us what we needed. Come on.
Therefore, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, because ye have not hearkened, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith Jehovah, and I will send unto Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and I will bring them against the land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all the nations round about, and I will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, a hissing, and a perpetual desolation.
Okay, so hold on. And I'm going to let them read some, but because I want us to look at this. Because often we see where they start talking about those north countries, and most of the time when they're talking about those north countries, they're talking about the countries like the Greeks and the Romans that were coming in, that of the captivity of which we're still under. The Latin Empire, the Roman Empire of which we're still under. In this case, that's not what they're talking about. If you read historically what happened in the 700s BC, between the 700s BC and right when we went into captivity, but if you read from the 700s BCE, to the 600s BCE, what you're going to see is there were wars everywhere. All those nations were all coming against each other. Remember what happened in the book of Isaiah. When Sennacherib came against Isaiah, remember? They came against, against Hezekiah. And they had Hezekiah trapped like a caged bird. If you read it in the inscriptions of Sennacherib, you'll see that that's exactly how it's written. And then it said that they had to go back and they had to fight wars over here against Libnah. And they had to go and fight wars over here against the Egyptians and against the king of Ethiopia. Because what was happening is all of those nations in that area were all fighting against each other. They were all coming together with each other and fighting against other ones of each other. The Sumerians, who they say are from the son of from Gomer, the son of Japhet. All of them in that area right above the Black Sea, they were all coming fighting against each other. And the reason that the Most High God said Nebuchadnezzar was his tool, because Nebuchadnezzar, when he came over, he subdued the entire region from all that fighting. So when you look at this later and you read where they're going to talk about Tyre and the Philistines and the Edomites and Moab, they were all fighting against each other in that region, some coming from the north, some coming from all directions, and Nebuchadnezzar came in and subdued everybody. And those are the prophecies that you read about in the book of Isaiah coming to pass in the book of Jeremiah. Come on.
Verse 10. Moreover, I will cause to cease from among them the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride.
They weren't singing. They weren't singing when Zedekiah, when they had him trapped up in that city. They weren't singing then. They weren't singing. There was no holy day. There was none of that. Come on.
The sound of the millstone and the light of the lamp. 11. And this whole land shall be a desolation and a waste. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70
Everybody.
years.
It wasn't just Israel. It was everybody that Babylon came and took over. It wasn't just Israel. It was everybody. Come on.
And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith Jehovah, for their iniquity, and the land of the Chaldeans. And I will make it a perpetual desolation. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Yirmiyahu hath prophesied against all the nations. For many nations and great kings shall make bondmen of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to their works of their own hands.
Come on.
For thus saith Jehovah Elohei Yisrael unto me, take this cup of wine of my fury at my hand, and cause all the nations to whom I send thee to drink it, and they shall drink and reel to and fro, and be like madmen because of the sword that I will sing amongst them.
Everybody. Come on.
Then I took the cup of Jehovah's hand, and made all the nations to drink, unto whom Jehovah hath sent me, Jerusalem and the cities of Yehudah, the kings thereof and the princes thereof, to make them an applement and an astonishment and a hissing and a curse, as it is this day.
Come on.
Pharaoh king of Egypt and his servants and
Everybody.
his princes,
Come
and
on.
all his people, and all
Everybody.
the people, and all the kings of the land of Uz,
Everybody.
and all the kings of the land of the Philistines, and Ashkelon and Gaza and Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod.
So now, hold on a second. So now, if you came into Israel because somebody told you that we could have multiple women, then you came in for the wrong reason. Right? If you came into Israel because you thought everything was going to be gravy when you came in, guess what? You came for the wrong reason. Because the prophet and the people of God, they have the hardest job ever. Think about what, if you really look at what they said Jeremiah had to do, God told Jeremiah to go to all of those nations that were round about and make them symbolically drink from this cup of fury. And that's what Jeremiah had to do. So Jeremiah had to go down into Egypt, and Jeremiah had to go over to the Philistines, and Jeremiah had to cross the Jordan and go over to Moab and all of these different places. Jeremiah had to go all the way to the north to Tyre and to Lebanon and to all of those places. Jeremiah had to do all of that. And prophesy to the nations and make them drink. We have a job. Only thing I'm saying is we have a job, and we don't have time to be sitting around hanging out just wasting time because we have a job. Part of our job is all of the people, guess what? All of our people who looked at the news and saw what happened this week that are scared and concerned and don't know what to do. Part of our job is to comfort them and to make them feel better. It's all part of the job. Come on.
Edom and Moab,
Everybody.
and the children of Ammon, and all the kings of Tyre, and all the
list
kings of
goes on.
Sidon, and the kings of the isles which is beyond the sea,
The list goes
Dedan
on.
and Tema and Booz, and all that have corners of their heads polled, and all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mingled people that dwell in the wilderness, and all the kings of Zimri, and all the kings of Elam, and the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world which are upon the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak shall drink of them after them.
Come on.
And thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim Yisrael, drink ye and be drunken, and spew and fall and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you.
So now, just think about it. All of these nations that the Most High called out, it said after they drink that they're going to be drunken and they're going to not rise up anymore. And if you look about the Elamite Empire, which was a great empire at the time, you don't hear about him anymore. The Assyrian Empire, you don't hear about him anymore. The Syrians, the Philistines, the Ammonites and the Moabites, you don't hear about them anymore. Because God's word is true. And even in the places where Babylon used to be, which is Iraq, and even in place where the Elamites used to be, which is Iran, they're still not built up nowhere near the way they were before. Because when the Most High sent the nations from the extreme north, and they came down and they partitioned and cut up the Middle East, right before they partitioned and cut up Africa, they have the land that's allotted to them by the Europeans that came in, and they bet not cross a border or else it's going to be a problem.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
28.
And God is king because God knows people. Come on.
And it shall be, if they refuse to take the cup at thy hand to drink, then thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh Sabaoth, ye shall surely drink.
Oh, you going to drink.
For lo,
You gonna drink.
I begin to bring evil on the city whereupon my name is called. And should ye be utterly unpunished?
Nah. So now, listen to what God said. He said, so he's going to bring the cup of fury on all of those nations. Guess what? Those are all of the same nations that came against Israel at different times, at different points. When you read in the Psalms where it said all of these nations conspired against Israel, that's all of them. And so listen to what God says. He says, you will surely, and it shall be, if they refuse to take the cup, you shall surely drink. For lo, I begin to bring evil on the city whereupon my name is called. Talking about Jerusalem. I'm going to bring evil upon them. And if I'm going to bring evil upon them, surely everybody else is not going to go unpunished.
Right.
God is just. And that's why I'm going to just be honest again. Because I want to be clear. At no point am I rejoicing or happy for anyone that dies, anyone that hurts. However, you cannot expect that I'm not going to speak up when you worried about a person who was shot while trespassing and breaking and entering, and you worried about them, and I'm going to speak up about why y'all not worried and upset about Breonna Taylor, and why you not worried and upset about Ahmaud Arbery, and why you not worried and upset about all of those. So I was watching CNN, and I was watching Don Lemon and Andrew Cuomo. So now, please, I don't want to hear it. For everybody who's about to fix their fingers to type or text or tweet about Don Lemon's history, I don't care. Listen to me, I'm trying to make a point.
It's bad that you got to prefix.
I'm just saying, because I know people. I know my people. Don Lemon and Cuomo. So usually Don Lemon and Cuomo are very friendly. They end each show with, I love you, D. Lemon. I love you, Cuomo. All that. Yeah. When you watch them this time, Don Lemon was very upset. Because in everything that you're going to say Don Lemon is still black. And Don Lemon was able to speak to his frustration as being black in a way that Cuomo could not understand because he is not black. He doesn't feel, it's not the same. It's not the same. And so again, I'm not speaking hate about anybody who was hurt, but I am speaking hurt for the people who've been murdered killed, and all of these different things. I am speaking hurt for them because I feel that. I'm going to be honest with you, right? Anybody see the movie Braveheart?
Yeah.
People used to talk about Braveheart, and people used to talk about Braveheart is a great movie about freedom and standing up. And so I watched the whole 8 hours of Braveheart.
Right.
Never watched it before.
No, I watched it after people was talking about it. I watched every second of the 8 hours.
Right.
And at the end, where they said you got to see the end, the greatest part where Mel Gibson stood up and they asked him, and they had him in a torture rack, and they was twisting and twisting and twisting, and they asked the king, just tried to get him to say okay to break the will of the people, and Mel Gibson yelled out and he said, "Freedom." And everybody was clapping, and everybody was happy. And I looked at the movie and I said, I'm touched because I can't relate.
Right.
Right.
I can't relate. I don't know what that feels like. Can't relate. Yet when I watched John Q, and I saw Denzel do everything that he had to do to save his little boy, then I could relate. I could relate then. And that's what happens when they try to separate. They give you these whitewashed movies about things. They give you the Harriet Tubman movie and it's whitewashed. They give you the Martin Luther King movie and it's whitewashed. I just found out that Martin Luther King didn't die from the shot, that he actually died in the hospital.
Yep,
Later.
Let him die.
Just found that out.
Yep.
Can't relate. I can't relate. When I sit in the midst of a people who constantly shoot and kill and hunt my people down, and you want me to accept someone I can't relate.
Can't do it.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
Can't do it. That's right. Can you do it?
Ye shall not be unpunished, for I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, saith Yahuwah Tzebaot. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, Yahuwah doth roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He doth mightily roar because of his foes.
That's what I'm talking about. Come on.
He gives a shout, as they that tread upon the grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise is come even to the end of the earth, for Yahuwah hath a controversy with the nations. He doth plead with all flesh.
Judge. Judge. He does judge all flesh. The God that I'm talking about is king. The God that I'm talking about is just and right. So when I don't get justice in a place where I'm not expected to get justice from, guess what? I turn to the ultimate judge, who I know justice will come from. So I don't get concerned. I don't worry about what happens here. Because I know God is king. I'm very worried about coronavirus, but I also know that God is king. So I come out because I feel like it's our obligation. I'm not speaking to anybody else. If you don't come, don't come. I'm not upset. But I do feel like it's my obligation to come out and teach God. Guess what? I feel like it's my obligation to come out and teach God people. People were dying in the midst of the plague, and Aharon had to run in the middle of life and death. And it said Aharon stood in the middle of the dead and the living. Guess what? That's our job. It's our job. And I'm unapologetic about doing it. And it's just like with Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael said, I know God can save. I know God can save. And even if he chooses not to, God is still king.
That's it. That's what they said. That's what they said. He doth judge all flesh.
Everybody.
As for the wicked, he hath given them to the sword, saith Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah Tzebaot, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great storm shall be raised up from the uttermost parts of the earth.
You see how he's talking about evil shall go forth from nation to nation? Let me let you in on a little something.
Say it.
And I'm learning this more and more as I'm studying these different historical aspects. Guess what? This whole thing about nations being civilized and all those different things, that's fairly recently. Mm-hmm. If an American president did what happened today, did what happened the other day, 60 years ago, Guess what? Russia would have been in the United States attacking. All of those other nations would have been in the United States attacking because nations just attack nations. That's what they always did. That's what God talking about now. And the nations saw vulnerability, just like then, just like with the Assyrians, just like now. The only difference is things, you got cell phones and cameras and things are a little bit more diplomatic. But guess what? In those 9 weeks that he was beefing and complaining, Russia attacked the United States with cyber attacks multiple times. Because they see vulnerability. So when we show as God's people, we need to stand up and we need to show strength. I wash, I be careful. When I'm out amongst people who I know have no concept of God, I wear a mask and all of that. I come here and I have to show strength because people need to see strength in God. They need to see something from black people that they haven't seen in a long time. They need to see black people stand up, strong, speak intelligent, speak right, speak godly. That's what people need to see. That's what we're trying to show. Come on.
33. And the slain of Adonai shall be at that day from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. And they shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the face of the ground. Wail, ye shepherds, and cry, and wallow yourselves in the dust, ye leaders of the flock. For the days of your slaughter are fully come, and I will break you in pieces. You shall fall like precious vessels, and the shepherd shall have no way to flee, nor the leaders of the flocks to escape. Hark, the cry of the shepherds, and the wailing of the leaders of the flock. For Yahweh despoileth their pasture, and the peaceable foes are brought to silence because of the fierce anger of Yah.
Say that again.
Hark, the cry of the shepherds, and the wailing of the leaders of the flock. For Yahweh despoileth their pasture, and the peaceable foes are brought to silence because of the fierce anger of Yahweh. He hath forsaken his covert as the lion, for their land has become waste because of the fierceness of the oppressing sword and because of his fierce anger. Hallelujah.
All honors, praises, respect, acknowledgement, and thanks I offer unto the great King of the universe, to the God of our fathers, to the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, thanking him for all things and thanking him for everything. I bid you in the tongue of our forefathers. Shabbat Shalom L'Kol.
Shabbat Shalom.